Death. That is something that will happen to all of us. We are pretty much the only species on Earth that is aware of death. Unless you want to count elephants that mourn, but that's about it. But other than that, we're pretty much the only species on this planet that can grasp the concept of ourselves dying. And none of us really know what happens after that. Once your brain stops working, nobody knows what happens next. Something a lot of people hope for in the future is immortality, or a way to come back from the dead, so we can live forever. And you wouldn't believe this, but a game that plays and looks and sounds like this it shows us why immortality is a fucking horrible idea. Yo, I was gonna work on this part of the video like good long bit ago, but here I'll just add a list of reasons of why I did not get to making the script. But anyway, I'm doing better. And Cruelty Squad. Where the fuck do I start explaining this fucking mess? This is like trying to introduce One Man One Jar to your fucking grandma. It's like, how the fuck? A consumer soft products managed by Vil Callio, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. This game came out on January 4th, 2021. And I learned of this game by watching Civi11, a very cool boomer shooter YouTuber you should watch because his content is great. He deserves, honestly, more subs. Now this video is going to be two things. One, why I think this game is a hidden gem that people should play, and why I think that it's amazing. And I will also be analyzing its story and theme, and why I think it tackles the concept of immortality in a very unique and cool way. Now, before I even think of trying to tackle the gameplay, I need to give the game a bit of an explanation of the basic story, but basic in this game is really fucking pushing it. You play as... Wait, what the fuck is his name real quick? Hold on, I gotta look this up. You play as MT Fuck. We've recently been fired from our job at the Sec Death Unit, and we are now working at the Cruelty Squad. Get it? It's the name of the game. Cruelty Squad, the company, basically is just a giant assassination organization that, if you pay them enough money, they'll kill whoever you ask them to. Even see in one level, they'll even go as far as to kill other Cruelty Squad agents. Immortality has now been discovered in the world of Cruelty Squad. Basically, you got enough money, when you die, you can get your ass rebuilt. If you got the dough, though. And so this has basically caused every rich person on the planet to become immortal. The economy is in fucking shambles, and the difference between poor and rich is drastic. And most of our missions usually involve trying to keep this corrupted flow going forward to make sure nothing can change it. But not all missions kind of involve that. We kill people who use startup funds to spend it on Chunko Pops. We kill someone who's trying to apply a 1% tax to fix the whole rich versus poor issue. Yeah, needless to say, we're sent to kill that motherfucker. Now, since, death is basically no longer a thing, the Cruelty Squad organization basically spawn kills and spawn camps these people is the best way to describe it. Just killing them over and over and over and over. That's basically what Cruelty Squad does. Anyway, time to analyze the gameplay and talk about why I fucking love this game's messy gameplay and graphics.
Hi, Billy Mays here with Zorbies, the most absorbent material I've ever used. It has the strength and the muscle to pick up and hold over 20 ounces of liquid. Look at this. Zorbies attracts liquid like a magnet. It doesn't matter if it's coffee, soda, even red wine. Watch as its powerful vacuum action pulls and cleans the stain from out of the carpet just that quick.
Minus our character, our handler who gives us our missions, and a few notable NPCs, you and the handler are basically the only characters that really are true characters in this whole mess. Most games try to make you feel like you're a part of the world. In this game, you feel like you are the world. NPCs talk in such nonsense that us normal, people would just not understand what they're trying to get at. People view death, other terrible things, as just numbers on a chart. And, in the world they're in, it makes sense. If death is basically just a slight road bump for the rich, why care about things in life? Why make traditional food? Why not make coffee burgers? Smoke meth, get high, do whatever you fucking want. Sure, there's the police, or, Cult of Order Police Department. Even with the police, we never really see them attack unless we're attacking our targets. So, yeah, they don't really do much. It's graphics. I can't hold that off any longer. It's fucking graphics. Look, if you have epilepsy and you've somehow made it this far into the video, please stop watching. You will actually have a fucking seizure if you keep watching this. This game does not care for your fucking eyesight at all, bro. It just says, fuck you. Now, here's the thing. I actually kind of like these fucked up graphics because I have grown up so long with video games trying to use, realistic textures, be the next big realistic game, when all they really need is to make an art style. And I feel like a lot of games have been living graphically due to art style. Borderlands, the old GTAs, Half-Life 1 and 2, Team Fortress 2, Global Offensive, but what I'm saying is, most games that are still alive graphically and still look good graphically is because they had an art style and didn't just try to go for make it realistic number 9,000. And this game takes that concept of, looking different with art style and fucking cranks it to -3. This game you only really know kinda where you are off the handler's mission briefing, the appearance of the physical location, and just trying to guess kinda sorta what this would be in a normal world. Like, oh, this is a casino. This is an apartment. This is a mall. This is a town. This is... I actually don't know what the fuck the Archon Grid is. What the fuck is the Archon Grid? And this is gonna sound dumb, but it gives me this almost liminal feeling that so much of the space you see almost feels like it's not needed. Like, I feel like at a time prior to immortality being a thing, these locations, all this space made sense. It was needed. They needed it for something. But now they don't, because whatever the fuck they needed is just useless thanks to immortality. I don't know what that would be, but I mean, if most houses have jack shit furniture and some of them don't even have beds, I mean, obviously something had to happen that made them do this. Whatever happened probably evolved the economy, because in Cruelty Squad, the situation of poor versus rich... Okay, look at the real world, right? Okay, now crank that bitch up. Currently, the richest 1% is richer than the entire rest of the population. And in Cruelty Squad, it's now 99% is richer than the 1%. Because in Cruelty Squad, the people you meet seem to be so blinded by money, corporation business, greed, and just other things that they can't really seem to notice the suffering really going on around them with this current state of the world. I also believe a lot of the unhuman enemies we encounter come from these experiments and boredom of just trying to figure out what to do.
Thank you.
Oh, shit! Oh, I'm sorry, I blacked out. But something I kind of find funny is the fact that as you play, the strange weirdness of the world just gradually becomes normal and just the average norm. You get used to the weird fucked up graphics and textures, you get used to the weird dialogue, the weird enemies, just the weird everything. Everything just starts to slowly go from what the hell am I looking at to, okay, cool, a new mission, alright, let's go. And it only really hit me about the first or second ending in that this world, what I'm viewing isn't normal, it's just becoming normal. What I'm seeing isn't normal. It is to everyone else in the world, and it's starting to become normal to me, but the world itself isn't normal. By listening to NPC dialogue, you can just pretty much find out the world is just fucked. And, well, obviously I've been talking about the graphics in the world, but we're talking about a video game here, right? So, what about the gameplay? Well, it's pretty damn good. You probably hear my fan in the background. Let me turn that shit down a bit. So, the gameplay of Cruelty Squad, it's messy, but it's fun. At the start of the game, you really don't have a lot of choices. You have a pistol that is able to basically one-shot anything with a head that isn't wearing armor, an SMG that is fucking loud but can shred through some enemies, a baton that I don't think anyone fucking uses. You have tranquilizer guns to knock out your targets because the cost of life is so fucking low that making tranquilizer guns for humans is considered worthless, so they just reuse ones they used on animals. The tranquilizer gun I only found useful for defeating the second boss back before I was able to get the ZKZ... the fuck was it called? The ZKZ transactional rifle, which is a weapon where the more money you have in stocks, the more powerful it does. Speaking of stocks, this game, unironically, has a stock market system that you can use to make money. I'm not shitting you. For example, after you kill the guy in Mall Madness trying to fix the whole poor versus rich issue, the stock market just fucking zooms up. Your actions in the story actually affect the stock market, and I actually kind of like this, because if you're paying attention to the story and like what the handler's telling you, and pay real close attention and, you know, plan shit out, you can buy a stock, and then when it goes up because it's something you did in a mission, you can make some big fucking bank. Be like me and fish for like 7 wheels of fortune, sell them all, and then buy like 1,000 stocks in a Cruelty Squad. Another little detail is the Cruelty Squad stock will actually go up for a little bit after you complete a mission, meaning if you complete a mission and then sell your Cruelty Squad stocks, you can make a bit more money than if you just sell them doing nothing else. There's also a market for selling organs that you can collect by giving humans, because the price of life is so low, a human corpse is cheaper than a kidney. You can do this by giving corpses, or when you enter power and misery, eating the corpses, then stealing the intestines. Saying this out loud makes me, puts me on a fucking FBI watch list. There's also a fish market. You can acquire the fishing rod by on Sin Space Engineering visiting this little island behind where you're actually meant to go and acquiring the fishing rod from there. There you can fish, sell fish that you find, and actually some of the most valuable fish are in the Casino Catastrophe map. Specifically the Wheel of Fortune, and then the next most expensive one, the Wheel of Pain, which I very rarely have caught. The Wheels of Fortune, unironically, are $1 million. And the main way I got the ZKZ rifle so damn powerful was unironically spending like 30 minutes just fishing, acquiring like 7 Wheels of Fortune because I had the rain hat on that let me, you know, get more expensive fish better. Speaking of the rain hat, that's considered equipment. See, that was, get it? It was a smooth transition. So in the world of Cruelty Squad, body enhancements they exist. You can make yourself shit out your feet to double and triple jump. Buy a fancy suit that makes you get one shot by even rats. A machine that turns your sweat into goo that you can use to climb walls. The Golem exosuit, which actually surprised me because it made me realize that golems are not robots or something, but just people like you wearing those exosuits. Same thing with the bouncy suit, it's just a suit that other people are wearing, similar to what you use. A machine that puts holes in your back and lets you shit out your back to propel yourself. There's a lot of shit in this game. And my personal favorite, the Appendix, which basically turns you into Spider-Man, but instead of spider webs, it's your intestinal tract. Then my second favorite, the cassette player. Now, you're gonna need that money for that you put in stocks and fish in order to buy this. Some of it, actually, you can't buy. Some of it you have to find. Now, I've 100% the game, and I don't feel like going through the pain of trying to get the Zippy again, so you're just gonna have to take my word for it. But they are in the levels and are very hard to acquire sometimes. Now, all this equipment would come in useless if you didn't have guns, and there's a lot. From the riot pacifier that pacifies riots with toxic gas, the AMG4, which is the second best option for getting rid of those fucking golems and necromechs, the DNA scrambler that just turns your enemies into fucking meaty spaghetti, the Abscess Ironworks Lux FF3747F727CE9D6DE9393733C321, which is pretty good at eliminating a lot of targets, but makes you run at the speed of a snail due to its weight. The
flamethrower,
which lets you eat the gibs of enemies by cooking them, and then you can gain some health back. The flashlight, which is basically the only way to get through the sewer and the paradise level, and also the only way to explore the dark world unless you get the night vision goggles, which are also in the dark world. And the weapons let you do a plethora of things and plethora of way to play the game. And I don't really know how to explain it well, so I made this compilation with a funny copyrighted song. Enjoy.
It's a fine grind, clearing out my cash line, speeding up my RAM time, coordinated light lines. If you need to move, I recommend computers. They can make you groove like I bet you never knew. Did you? Oh, the complication when I feel your air control my body heat. I wanna feel it. I must ignore your touch. I feel yo. Gotta know what you do, what you doing. I. Love what you're doing to me. I'm a computer screen. Love what you're doing to me. Computer screen touches hold on to execute. Let me know what to do. Read me TXT. Leave it all up to me. Check all my internal drives. I bet my solid state is getting softer now. Softer. Factory reset. Waking up new and so clean is the best. Operating on the lowest of line. CPU in drive.
that took like 2 hours to make. But anyway, this game's gameplay is really fun in my opinion. My personal play style is using the Bolt ACR and maybe the ZKZ transactional rifle, the Appendix, Stealth Suit, the Life Sensor, and the Funk Grunters. But I find it funny just how enjoyable the gameplay of the game is. You can do so much with the arsenal, and the whole fun part of the game, in my opinion, is just unlocking everything and trying to test things out and learning how to use it properly. Some equipment is completely fucking useless. Some equipment is basically life-changing. One of the things in equipment is an entire fucking level. But basically, with Cruelty Squad, the gameplay is good. There is lots of ways to play through levels. Some of them do require you to pretty much play a certain play style, like for example, Bog Business. If you want to get through that pretty easily, the Hazmat Suit, which you can also find in Bog Business, is pretty useful and helps you avoid those fucking rats. I don't like flesh rats. Also, those flesh men can go fuck themselves. Now, the music and the sound design in this game for the weapons is just something else. The guns sound loud and powerful. You know when an enemy spots you because of their loud noises they make. And certain enemies will make certain noises, like how the Dark Worlders basically just start talking in static. Also, it's presumed Dark Worlders are an entirely different race than a person, I guess. I don't know. But the sound design in this game is great, and the enemies, the guns, the equipment, when you hear your feet shit, I am saying this out loud and I fucking hate it. But anyway, gameplay, good. Sound design, good. And speaking of sound design, yo, look, another smooth track. Sometimes describing the music as music feels a little bit generous. The music in Cruelty Squad is it's noises. I really don't know how to describe it. It's techno beats sometimes. Sometimes it's the sound of, and I wish I was kidding, water splashing. Sometimes it's piano music. Sometimes it's just normal ambience. I think 2 or 3 levels actually have a combat track that plays. As to why Calio cut the idea of other levels having it, I don't know. Either way, it just makes those levels special, I guess. And something I find funny is much like the weird world around you, the weird talk of the people, the weird guns and everything else, the music starts to become normal. You start to just get used to it. It just becomes something you're normal with. I would sometimes find myself bobbing my head a few times to the music, especially in Neuron Activator, because like that beat. It's a beat. Now, it might come as a surprise to you, but this game kinda has a story. I kinda covered it earlier in the intro, the basic why you're doing what you're doing, but as to the events that go on in the game, I haven't described that yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna go and talk about the story and kind of analyze it. Now, I'm going to spoil the first ending, the second ending, and the third ending. If you're trying to acquire any of the endings or still haven't beaten the game, go ahead and click off now, because I am going to spoil the entire game for you, and I'm probably going to analyze it, try to give what I think the story's about. Now, from what I understand, Vilcalio doesn't really like people projecting certain ideas and all this onto his game, so I'm going to try to understand it from what the game is going at, which is namely about the rich being powerful and corporations and everything about the value of life, immortality. I'm not going to touch into any other type of weird-ass subject. I'm just going to stick to those main three and hope I can come up with a decent analysis. So I went ahead and covered in the beginning why you're doing what you're doing, but for a brief recap, we got fired from the Sec Death Unit and now we're working for Cruelty Squad. So let's go ahead and look at every level's story and mission and try to put it all together. Our first mission is at Pharmacokinetics, I believe I am pronouncing that right. We are sent to kill 2 people who have embezzled funds on biocurrency. The handler also mentions that he put a combat cocktail in our drink. Some people view this as, oh, well, that means the graphics in the game aren't real, but from what I understand, Vilcalio has stated that the graphics you see are real, and everything around you is real in the world of Cruelty Squad. Think of it kind of sort of like maybe Quake or Dusk, where yeah, it looks low quality, but to them it's probably realistic. Paradise, which, funny enough, that town is actually in the shape of a pentagram, if you didn't know that. We're there to kill a bunch of G-Tech executives that have spent their money on dumb shit like nerdy things and Chunko Pops. We're also told that there's a catacomb in that town. That catacomb will come in useful later. Our next mission is in Sin Space Engineering. We're sent to kill the target because his job was meant to send people into space and then they die due to the overpopulation caused by death not existing. But instead he's been using it to start colonies on other planets, and thus because he's not doing his job right, we have to kill him. Our next mission, we go to Androgen Assault. We learn that the police in this game have been taking drugs that they've been stealing, and have been taking them themselves. This might explain their deformities, but also this game's art style, humans don't really look human. One of them has glowing green eyes due to the drugs he's taken, and the other has become an enemy dubbed in the game's files as a bouncy castle. Next up in Mall Madness, we have to kill somebody who's trying to fix this weird, corrupt system of government and corporations. He's introducing a brand new idea, taxes, so that way the rich will stop being powerful to blow his brains out and run away. Our next mission, the handler, does not seem so nice. It turns out now we're being attacked. We kill our landlord because I guess he was the one that called the police on us, and then we escape. We're told in the next briefing that it was just a fat finger mistake. Our next mission is Seaside Shock. According to this mission, we're more doing this because we've been paid, less of it has something to do with affecting the economy. These people are basically trying to advertise a cruise ship as somewhere that people can live forever, and we end up killing those guys that started it. Next mission has us going to a swamp and killing a cult. What is this cult doing, you asking? Trying to stop fracking? A really good YouTuber named Chuck actually did a little bit of a kind of deep analysis here. He basically said that people who are protesting against these horrible things against the environment, who want the world to be okay and make sure we don't ruin it. How are they betrayed? Dumb fuck cult members in a swamp. But anyway, we killed the cult leader mainly just because it will ruin the swamp cult's organization and the entire faction is just going to fall into ruin. After that, we pretty much don't ever see the swamp cult again. Next up is Casino Catastrophe. Much like Seaside Shock, this one is less about the economy and more just because we've been paid to do it. Our boss, the corporate archdemoness of control, Elsa Holmes, lost a lot of money betting on the gambling machines. And because she's pissed, we're sent to kill the owner of the casino. If you thought the missions involved the economy, they very slowly begin to not. Next up, we are pretty much told by our handler that, hey, for shits and giggles, you should go to this elite class party and kill the priest there. I'm not kidding, he basically tells us just to do it for shits and giggles. Interesting thing to note is he actually looks like our landlord. And we saw those exact same rubber cultists in the landlord's apartment, so maybe it's the same person. And it gets weirder. We're pretty much told by our handler to say fuck control, fuck the system, kill your boss. So we kill number 4, number 3, number 2, number 1, and then we kill Elsa Holmes. However, talking to Elsa Holmes gives us a very bleak view on how the agents of Cruelty Squad and probably other organizations are treated by their higher-ups. She really has a point. I mean, she's gonna come back no matter what we do, and we'll never really figure out how to stop her forever. There really is no way to stop her other than just killing her for a moment. Now, by this point in the game, most of the levels are at least themed after a realistic looking place, or at least you know it's meant to be a real place. And then you go to Archon Grid. This level is... I really don't know what it is. Archon in Greek stands for ruler. And judging by the description of the level, I personally think our character is slowly becoming one of those higher-ups in the world that we have been assassinating ourselves. We get through the hellhole that is called the Archon Grid, and then come to face with this thing. Braxis is the name of this creature, which stands for Great Archon. Funny enough, every time you die, that face is the same face you've seen when you die. It believes me to think that perhaps the Abraxas monster is pretty much what's causing this whole immortality thing, or allowing people to come back from the dead. That, or maybe, and this is a very dumb idea judging by the ending, it's guarding the afterlife, perhaps. Like, it's preventing people from entering. Most of this level can honestly be up to interpretation, because I don't even know if this level is real, if I'm gonna be honest with you. But we kill it, and then we exit through the door.
You emerge from a long and weary sleep. The world appears as a large, flat plain of opportunity. The sky is boundless and blue. You are among friends. The air is fresh with the scent of the ocean. You have learned acceptance and forgiveness. But you lack the knowledge and understanding. You will be trapped forever. The past is ever present. The sun smiles at you with eternal malice.
I believe the ending is one of a few things. I believe it might be that our character is starting to understand the mindset behind the higher-ups of the world, and how a world without death is got a lot of opportunity to it. As you can see, as it says, a world without death, there's not much to do. Now, this is where most people just put the game down and then write a review about it. G-Man lives! But there's 2 other endings to acquire. In order to unlock the second one, we have to meet a few requirements. We have to unlock Death Mode, which changes our life orb to a Death Orb. You also unlock a speed boost and the ability to wall jump. And we also must eradicate our hope. Hope Eradicated is the hardest difficulty in the game, and upon unlocking this mode, every level will be given an additional target. Usually these targets give a little bit more info or just say weird shit. I forgot to mention this, so I'm adding this in post, but basically there are a few ways to unlock Hope Eradicated. You can either get the orb that is in the Cruelty Squad headquarters behind a secret wall that requires you put your resolution at 640 by 480p. I'm not making this up, that's how you can find that. You can find the orb within Archon Grid. And you remember how I mentioned Paradise earlier? You see, if you want to avoid the whole orb, you can actually enter the Catacomb within the Paradise level if you have Divine Light. Remember to bring a flashlight, because you'll need it. And within there, you can find the Cursed Torch, which lets you enable Hope Eradicated on any map as long as you have it equipped. Also within that catacomb is a secret level. And speaking of secret levels, some of the secret levels include the Dark World, where the target we're killing there, unironically, we are killing him because he wants us to kill him. Really says something when the rich are so bored that they want to be assassinated. From what I understand with the description of the next one, Alpine Hospitality, we are going there because some of our biggest competitors are having a meeting or deal there and we're not invited, which means it can't be good. Alpine Hospitality is probably one of my favorite levels in the whole game, actually. I don't know, just something about it's fun to me flying around and seeing how fast I can get through it. The next secret mission is Miner's Miracle. We are sent there because Michael Brain, the CEO of Godhead Heavy Industries, has been talking about quitting, and Cruelty Squad doesn't see any use of money from him, so might as well get rid of him. Handler even says he used to be a fan of him and had a poster of him on his wall. The next secret mission, Neuron Activator, which is the most ear-piercing of the entire fucking game. Neuron Activator also is the one mission we really do something, like, actually good. According to the description, Helsinki was apparently experiencing a really good housing market boom after the results of an accident wiping out 99% of the population. People are now just partying now that the whole fucking place has been pretty much wiped out. Survivors are the ones giving us the money to wipe out the people partying. It really is the only mission we do something actually good. Anyway, you kill the real estate flippers, and then also something unique about the one target. Earl, this target, is wearing a green rubber party suit, and he seems to look a lot like the one person in Paradise that had all the Chunko Pops. Anyway, now let's go ahead and with Death and Hope Eradicated, head back to Cruelty Squad headquarters. Upon entering the level with Hope Eradicated, every single NPC in that level dies and never comes back. At least most of them. We open up the door and we can already see shit's getting trippy. And as we go further and deal with the fucking bulletproof dogs, we come across our target. And no matter how much lead you pump into this motherfucker, he just doesn't go down. Now, there are 2 ways to kill him. One is kind of cheesy, the other is if you're really good at the stock market. The cheesy way is to get the tranquilizer gun and the, I literally mentioned this gun earlier, full ACR. Stun him with the tranquilizer gun, fucking kill him with the bull ACR. It'll take like 30 seconds, but eventually he will go down.
Eventually.
Or you can use the ZKZ if you have a pretty good amount of money in the stock market. If you have enough, you could even fucking one-shot him. But we enter the door, and our itself.
I weep. You are a rotten husk. Overflowed with boundless power. You have the soul of an emperor. Sacrificial hair blessed by primordial look. Your friends are in hell. You smile. Only good things will come to someone like you. Set goals. Have a 10-year plan. Invest. Wake up early. CEO mindset. Good luck.
I believe at this point our character has truly become one of the higher-ups in society, judging by the text talking about CEO mindsets. The whole part about his friends rotting in hell, I believe means that, much like how when you start, all the people that you talk to normally that are actually nice to you for once in the game are now dead. And what I believe it's trying to say is that perhaps our protagonist, empty fuck, has been doing this for so long that now his friends have passed away. Meaning that his friends are now in the afterlife, and because he's powerful and rich and gets rebuilt every time he dies, he's still here. But with his CEO mindset, he's making money, he's successful, and it seems like life's going good for him. Now there's only 2 more levels to acquire. This level, House, you must pay $1 million to acquire. And it's almost like the housing crisis. I didn't steal that joke from Civi 11, And while you'd think this would just be maybe a relaxing level, there is targets to it. Also in this level, we are treated like shit from people that call us a city fucker, so it's kind of presumed that maybe people that live in rural areas are just different and don't agree with city standards and corporations. And also something I noticed is a lot of NPCs you kill here will actually die permanently, which I think maybe means that the people in the countryside go here because they can't afford to be rebuilt and thus stay somewhere calmer. Our targets talk about these creations called the Triagons. What I believe they are trying to talk about is the Triagons being the creators of the world of Cruelty Squad. The first Triagon guy mentions how the first Triagon was born of malice and presumably created organisms, disease, and other things, allowing them to twist, turn, pulsate, pump, allowed living to exist. The second Triagon saw that humanity was suffering. The world was in chaos, the biology, everything demanded calm. It wanted violence and disease to end. It put a limit on living. It gave us things like metabolism. And it pretty much just made sure that we pretty much just had a limit. It gave death more as a gift than as a punishment. Now, the origin of the third one I'm a bit confused on. What I believe it's trying to say is the third Trigon created competition, competitiveness, business. It pretty much caused us humans to compete with each other. The third Trigon introduced that, aka the third transaction. Now, whether this is just some rich fuckwads in the country preaching about a god that maybe doesn't even exist, let's pretend for a second they're right, just for a second. That means the world was created by 3 fucking anal bead worms. These things created civilization, and humanity has since expanded since then. These things are looked up to as a god because they essentially are God. They created the world of Cruelty Squad. Something else I found funny was how it seems like golems in the bouncy suit were designed with this same spherical design, perhaps as a way to maybe worship or give a thanks to the Triagons. But now that we've acquired House and have beaten all the levels, we've unlocked the final one, Trauma Loop. The description says that we've been guided here by our divine intellect and drive, our biological trauma has led us here. The mission's briefing is simply locate the Cradle of Life. I believe that the Cradle of Life, while it's never explicitly stated, the orb that you find at the end of the game, I presume it is either one of a few things. It is either what is keeping people from entering the afterlife, the gateway to the afterlife, and thus hence why it's heavily guarded, or it is simply something that allows people to die. Something to note is the enemies you've encountered throughout the game are factions, pretty much. Security, the Dark Worlders, police, cultists, swamp cultists, the ship crew at some points, even your own Cruelty Squad friends. But the faction here is simply just called the Skeleton Army. They are, what I kind of think is that they have been guarding this place for so long that they are now skeletons. We can only really imagine how long it's been since humanity found immortality. And so thus I assume that perhaps these things have been here for so long that it's just a skeleton in a suit now. This is also where a game throws a curveball at you. Your equipment is now stripped. There's an NPC in the level called the Limit Chancellor that is preventing you from being able to use your equipment. It is a bitch to find, but once you find them, it lets you freely use your equipment throughout the level. This level throws a lot of unique armored enemies, and is overall just testing your skill as a player. But eventually, probably with the skin on your teeth like me on my first completion, you reach the Cradle of Life. I really don't know if I can explain anymore what the fuck is going on. Our character is walking with other people and walking towards something named death. Things and images flash on the screen. The music is just blaring in your ears. Quotes begin to show up.
A point in the horizon. A melting scene from your childhood. Your mortality is showing. A frantic drift towards nothing. Biology doomed to an infinite recursive loop. Teeth with teeth with teeth. Take a bite. Serene scent of a coastal town. Warmth of the sun. Bitter tears. Lust for power. This is where you abandon your dreams. You are a high net worth individual. An expanding vortex of pathetic trauma. Finally, a beautiful fucking nerve ape. Pure soul is born. Its neurotransactions stutter into being. Lots of operations per nanosecond. Beauty eludes your porous mind. The value of life is negative. The balance of being is rotated by 38 degrees. The surface is full of cracks. The turgid light shines through. Fleshy primordial bodies sluggishly roll down the slope. Only you slide upwards with a celestial step. You become beautiful, a saintly figure. Your pristine idiocity reveals a safe path through the impenetrable fog of life. Your dull sword cuts through the weak tendons and membranes of the garden of corruption. Sit on the throne of contentment and ferment. Inspect the eternal blue skies of your kingdom. You come to a realization. You pick up an onion and begin peeling. Onion layer 1, onion layer 2, onion layer 3, onion layer n to the power of n. Eons have passed and the onion is fully peeled. Nothing remains, it's perfect. You get lost in the point that remains where the onion used to be. Synaptic cascade. Neurological catastrophe. The point becomes infinitely dense. The universe condenses into a unicellular being. It screams sin, it craves happiness, it's done with this world. It tries to commit suicide, but fails. Sad, pathetic mess. You feel pity and disgust, but only in a way of a pure being of grace can. In your violent mercy, you terminate the world life.
We're then shown a picture with the text Golden Age on it. We are then given a quote from George Bataille. The living organism, in a situation determined by the play of energy on the surface of the globe, ordinarily receives more energy than is necessary for maintaining life. The excess energy, wealth, can be used for the growth of a system, easy guess, an organism. If the system can no longer grow, or if the excess cannot be completely absorbed in its growth, it must necessarily be lost without profit. It must be spent, willingly or not, gloriously or catastrophically. And then we go to the title screen. I believe this ending has possibly a either good or sad view. I believe that it might be our character, now after finding the cradle of life, becomes a god or a godlike entity, and resets the earth, allowing it to enter a golden age. And while it will take a while to recover, and it will take a very long time to rebuild from what was left, humanity will be able to recover, now with death being a thing. Or, a more grim look, our character views this afterlife as a golden age and simply just becomes a god and accepts his throne there. He doesn't do anything to fix the world and has become fully power hungry and a complete utter monster. Just like the targets that we were killing in the game. It's kind of funny to me that a game that on the surface that looks like a giant shitpost has a really deep and interesting look at the concept of immortality. Immortality is always looked at about its upsides. You always think of, oh, well, we won't die. We can be with our friends and loved ones forever. We can do and experience whatever we want without a worry about time. But without time, you're gonna do everything, and then there'll be nothing left to do. You'll experience every emotion. You'll go to every place. You'll meet every person. You'll witness every event. Life won't have any meaning. This is quite literally what the game means by the term, the cost of life is negative. Because in Cruelty Squad, due to immortality being a thing, the purpose of life is just ruined. Without death, nothing has meaning. Nothing in that world has any meaning to it. When you really think about it, Cruelty Squad isn't really doing anything. They're not trying to solve overpopulation or fix the powerfulness that the rich have in this world. They're just killing people because they're paid to, and they know that person's gonna come back. Elsa Holmes herself says it. You're gonna kill her, but she'll be here next time you're there. You can't stop her. Whether it's from the Cradle of Life or Abraxas, whatever is causing this pretty much immortality is just ruined the earth. Death, and to an extent limits, cause you to do things because you know you'll run out of time or you won't be able to do it at all if you take it too late. Teens like me, the reason we want to try to get into a relationship at young ages is because we know if we get too old, we won't ever be able to have a relationship. And because of that, that gives us a meaning to try to find love, death, and limits. But because there's no limit, no one cares. Why would you care about trying to find somebody to love? And what I believe all the endings in total pretty much amount to is, ending 1 is our character starting to understand why the rich people enjoy a world without death, but also question its true value. Sure, there's plenty of opportunities to do whatever you want, but as visually seen in the ending, said opportunities are pretty barren. Once you've done and taken every opportunity, there's nothing left to do. The only thing left is the sun smiling at you with malice. The second ending is our character now becoming one of the true, real elites of the world. With his CEO mindset, his plan to invest, wake up early, do what he can, he's been able to make it big and now is one of the higher-ups. But his friends and family are now dead that couldn't afford immortality. This is symbolically shown in the headquarters. When you enter with hope eradicated, all your friends there die, and they don't come back. They've died. You've outlived them. Not because of an accident that happened to them or their job as an assassin got them killed, but simply just they got old and couldn't afford to be rebuilt. You now sit alone. You have all this money, but no one to keep you company. And then in the third ending, our character is either realizing how horrible this way of living is, or is sick and tired of being immortal, and thus goes to the cradle of life, which I personally believe, looking at it a bit more, I believe within the cradle of life itself, inside of it, lies the entrance to the afterlife. And because it's been closed, people are now immortal. And only very few people can now really get into the afterlife because of this. Hence why NPCs, enemies, your targets, they all just respawn. Only a few that can't afford to be rebuilt truly die. And we can assume that because they're just dirt poor, or just simply the cost of being rebuilt is too expensive for them. After that, he goes into the cradle of life and presumably lets people die again. Not killing people and letting them die as punishment, but as a way to fix the world. Corporations will no longer have a stranglehold on everything on the planet. Death will have meaning. Friendships, love, family, it will all have a meaning now. Death gives things meaning. Without death, there is no meaning to anything. Would you love your pets as much as you did if you knew that they're immortal? Would you care about your significant other more if you knew they were immortal? You would obviously say yes, but in the long run, it would become a burden. And while we don't know how long humanity's been fucked like this, by the futuristic enemies, weapons, and the fact that the trauma loop quite literally has floors made of skulls, and that the guards there are skeletons, it can be assumed it's definitely been at least over 50 years like this. Maybe the reason the world looks so fucked graphically is because it's been so long that just the idea of basic architecture and basic design has just been fucked. Why care what you make the walls look like? Just make them look like faces. No one's gonna care. And like the quote from George Bataille says, with all this excess energy, without a place to put it, things will just fall apart. With all this life, there's not much to do with it. All of these humans and all their humanity, but nowhere for them to go. Endless opportunity, but nothing to do. Our character giving the world death is not a punishment. It's to give hope. And so, I have one last question to ask you, viewer. Do you want to live forever?